and we're going to have a continue just a short conversation with Par from Sweden on the last kind of class video we did, which was who are you, law, and your legal standing. So we're just going to have a conversation now, maybe about any kind of things that had been harvested or gleaned from the conversation, and what kind of changes or thoughts have come along since then. Okay, so.
Well, I could jump into my week, and first of all, I enjoyed there was a clear pattern or a clear path, or the red thread of your conversation was well planned last week, so it was highly enjoyable to follow your line of you had this presentation like a storyline, so it was quite enjoyable to follow, and it created lots of opportunity to think. Number one, during the show, and I listened back to all the show, and it's 3 hours actually. So to listen through so much, it's nice if there is something that will catch your attention. And you provided a very nice outfit to come along with, to work with, and to because we all come to different subjects and try to learn things. So in the learning process, we discover ourselves, and then your actual main topic was only the self in itself, but from the perspective of law. And anytime we came back to that, or you came back to that in the conversation, the 3 hours could be worth it. So anyone didn't see that show, it was interesting to follow how you lined up a lot of the words that seem contrary. So if things matter, but things are matter. So not only that, you broach on a lot of the spiritual or mental thinking world side, the non-touchable side of touchable things, or we as being are something moving around here in existence, but some things we maybe take for granted, or sometimes we stop to learn or maintain an approach to who we are and how we go about things. So that was quite enjoyable. And directly after the show, there were some things, because you had a nice way both to approach my areas. It's like if I watch myself forward and I have no mirrors, I will see nothing behind me. Now I have YouTube, so YouTube give me a nice camera view of what's behind me. So I have a cheat trick system to see the things behind me. But normally there are lots of aspects of yourself you're not so aware of, but anyone else will see it straight up, and some could be surprised from telling you things obvious for everyone else except yourself. So the week was it gave lots of energy for me, and that's good, maybe in point of what you were talking a lot about, energy or the spirit or the unseen world, or as you sometimes put it, like the antimatter, the empty space of the medicine wheel, and how that creates what is physical or our existence here. So this week gave lots of energy or nurtured that situation in me to go back and maybe have some introspection, watch inside myself, and ask myself a lot of questions. and during this week, I also send you some. Well, you sometimes mentioned I should start a blog, because sometimes I write quite long posts for you to read, and then you're nice enough to respond to them, and it's a part of an interaction of developing something. So I will reveal something. I will. But when I reveal something for myself, you helped me a lot with it last week. And in listening back to it, it could also make me come to realize there are a lot of things I can see as very strong inside myself already, or as a strong foundation. So foundation is what you stand on, and some things is you have it natural. Some things you will have natural, but other things, the blind spots on myself, normally I don't see them behind me. It can be a very interesting situation if you open up for someone that will be good enough to point the interesting stuff. You don't think about yourself and start to go approach them. So I actually spent a lot of much more time outside this week. I'm in preparation mode for lots of things in life, but I'm actually downside in a basement. So that's kind of very cut away from nature. And the week that was, not only did I think more about larger questions, and also I reconnected to things I already see as very strong and evident inside myself. For example, I will mention that later, but I made myself more go out and spend time in the garden and in walking around and being like out in real existence or nature. To be in a basement and all technical things around you may much more be like to being in a man-created world, but being around outside in the magnificence of nature. Right now we have the mid or later part of summer, so as we see behind me, there's a chance to still see lots of flower, and so I see nature struggle this year. Lots of less insects. Most likely, I would argue you could easily find all the radiation towers we have. So the insect life suffer, and I can see the birds actually suffer from hunting much more severely for food and lots of other things. So nature has it a bit tough, but to be outside in nature and see well all its wonders, it made me go closer to that. And also, as I always do, some of the parts of me and inside me or in me came very early to me in life, and I have given a kind of a great deal of thought about the things I know and took care of strong myself. Those things came early to me in life, and also early in life came some of the moments, some of the systems offering me to take a road that didn't support the active development of myself, instead developed an option to be a codependent. My mother is kind of quite strong in looking for attention from others, and as her children, that's kind of a narcissistic trait, and as child to a mother like that, I took the offer to be like mommy's little hero, or to adjust myself more to the needs or the expectation I would kind of calculate my mother would provide for or would make her happy. So that made me naive in the kind of social development. We had a situation in the family as doing some so-called progressive things that provided me a strong chance to have a really confident center inside myself, never doubting to be safe in myself. I grew up as vegetarian. I'm not now, and my mother was kind of this environmental movement was growing in the 70s, so she leaned towards this, and she leaned towards political. She liked some political movements that was around that would actually be the so-called progressive that I now can see clearly as culture Marxism, and clearly is actually a system to break down society. The constant hearing from my mother from very young years, like, well, blah blah blah, conversation and the new man. That's kind of a trigger word, and it's put there in position to make people. And so my mother actually followed this path herself of trying to not be strong inside, but try to win something from the outside. And a system to do that would be to follow to create the new man. You feel like you have a purpose. So it took me too many years to start to think more about my social skills development inside myself. So you helped me a lot with that last week, but other things that I actually truly have strong a very strong core sense inside myself. It happened early on in life, and I realized myself to take care of it and not let it be someone else's destiny to provide what I should do with it. And only 4 or 5 years old, my father got a gift from one of his building friends. My father was constantly rebuilding and fixing our house to raise the standards. And he got a free old style piano. I did not know that as 4 or 5 years old, but it was put in, erected on the side because it was not really functional, and the room that should carry it was not ready. But myself and this object talk to each other. So I came to myself to discover music from this. Put aside instruments, put not ready for playing, but I would go there myself, and I would grab my fingers into these magical things, and that's the strings of the inside of it, and I would pluck them, and I would in marvel study the magic or the astonishing world coming there. I felt an instant connection to it, and I was lucky with my mother encouraging all children in this progressive manner or a little social upper class style of practicing an instrument. And I did this already from 5-6 years, and also this added with this very special experience of me and music being one and together from very early age. And music really was a love is a kind of core center of my identity. Who am I? Me and music, and that's the spot in time when I had it more difficult in life, facing rejecting myself in putting myself lower down on the list and giving more attention to others, asking for support, and I would fill in their needs first. But finally doing that too long, if you say, sure, this great thing, I will do it later, and you do it too many times, I even myself will start to notice, like, well, when is this later time going to come if I never say now it's the time? And I did study the way I wanted after being like 9-10 years old and always being proficient in playing instruments. Finally, we got a piano at home, a real piano, and I started to just play around with it. I had another instrument as main instrument, but this piano playing became like my passion. And finally, I figured out some ways to create music from it, but I could only get this one piece. And I was in the senior year of the year before college. Maybe it's 15 years. That's the latest year you're in Swedish compulsory school. I had my own music tune figured out, 8 minutes long, and I could perform it for anyone, and anyone would say like, wow, that's really great. But after that, it stopped. It was like by happen chance I came that long, but I enjoyed to toy around, to meditate or to create with music. And for some years I struggled to get on, and I finally figured out and started to take private lessons in jazz improvisation and jazz harmony theory. So that gave me the tools I needed to see and understand it in the broader perspective, and that is still with me today. And anytime I need the inner emotional space and better connection, music will be a very great tool. And the last actually 1.5 years, I have started to pick up that a lot, and I use it a lot. And something that's very interesting for we who engage in music, and everyone should know that before the age of 12 years old, there's a very great chance you yourself had a so-called super talent. But in the school system we attend, these some have perfect like pictorial memory, or some are very skilled in using their inner eye to paint with, or to sing, or to compose lyrics or whatever. And in my case, I had a very strong early connection to music, so I kept a very strong connection to that. And I can see a person that wants to learn music, and I can say, oh boy, you will struggle hard. Maybe it doesn't matter the age, because, well, they will not put in the energy really you need to develop. But I did it so early on, so it was just natural for me to pick the tools and go with it. And in developing yourself in an area, I can say like playing instrument is very interesting thing, because when my finger touches the key of a piano, and I try to connect to your last week's conversation now about who are you when you play an instrument, actually the physical me and the touching of a key and the sound coming out of it and back into my ears, and all reflexes of nervous function going on in the connection of performing all this. When music becomes like best, even creating, I do a lot of creating. It's like music comes to me. It comes. Music and I are connected. Music and me, we are like a connected being or unity. So from inspiration or from input, wherever, either I play myself or I listen to something. So I have a very strong, this vibrational thing is energy coming to me, and I have a very strong connection to it, and the ability to when I sit and meditate and take my own very important personal time in meditating or creating, I can get an idea in my brain. And I can save it and go and play it down, and I have a recorded device so I can remember it, of course, and then I will process and use and work with it. So in playing the best, and when you feel the most happy or engaged in the activity, you will find that actually the touch of everything is much more than a mechanical thing. It's a very organic thing. To be in the moment with your creation, that's a truly creation or creative activity. And there is such a strong, because the continuation of music is kind of an interesting art, because you have to go into it and follow it. You cannot freeze it in time and put it on the wall and say, because, well, that's not music. Music is very, some will say it's a fluid activity. It can just fall away, or it can just go away from you, or you can go into it and be with it. And the connection of beingness, I would actually say that me and music, we are together when we do that. And many creative artists will say like they become connected to the higher source. And maybe that's some of the points maybe you trying to point me towards. And this connection I had very early on in life, and also something I see that you are less strong connected to, and you even expressed it last week with saying all culture, there is no culture in America. Culture is gone. There's too much different country men put on the same space, and the structure of society has also supported to make culture less important. But I actually, as a Swedish, even my mother chose a Swedish man from the almost entirely different part of Sweden. So she was partaking in this breaking up of society, family, your relatives, the area. She grew up in a farm. But she actually kind of expressed from going into school, she kind of developed this almost I try to not use the word hatred, because she kind of, the easy way to say is she started to hate, like if she would become 15, 20 years, she started to see like any boy that she would imagine to marry would be kind of a third, fourth, fifth cousin in any situation regarding the local societal structure. But she at least have a Swedish husband, and I can feel very, very strong inside me both the cultural connection and the heritage of the folk spirit. I will say it folk, because you should not say it folk like in the American way. You say folks, hey, yeah, come on, folks. That's like a diminishing use of the word, because of folk, or we actually use this word as a very ancient old word, meaning the people of an area. The folkland might come through as the word for it. And the identity of a folk is almost like a spirit of being. I hear you try to come in here. I will let you come in a moment, but I'll finish off that. I feel very strong connection to it. And actually, when I became 25 years old, No, when I became 29 years old and finally got my first child, I felt immediately a very strong connection to a reason and purpose in life. When my son was born, and I felt the wisdom of this should have happened earlier in my life. And of course, many of the things, my bad training in social skills actually prevented me from what I really wanted in life, is a happy family. That's a core thing I feel inside me. So of course I should be more strong in what you suggested last week, to get the support of you should, and people should, my family should help me to find this time and space and allow me to develop myself, and who am I, and what do I want, because then I would choose a more wise choice for this, because I feel really my purpose is here in life is to have family, and this connection with learning things from experience and sharing that with other people. I have a career behind me before as teacher, and as no teacher is perfect for all students, still a lot of students can probably surely remember me as a strong character for them in their path through the school systems. But surely many students can never say they fully appreciate any teacher just from that. But I learned a lot from it, and it's quite interesting to be in the situation to practice, to teach others. So the music here is like the thing also, creating and doing music. I feel very strong connection with it. You tried to knock on the door here, so I will bid you some silence. You can come in. You want to comment something?
Yeah, I was just Rudolf Steiner, and I'll post this link so that you could have it. But he has some interesting ideas on the folk soul and what it is. Mm-hmm. And which is not a typical thing that, like American culture would know or understand unless you've like studied Steiner. And he was speaking in Norway when this lecture took place. Actually, it said, "Affords me great satisfaction to be able to speak somewhat at length for the third time to our friends here in Norway." Yes. So this was in 1910 when he gave this lecture. So he talks about folk soul, what that would be, and just kind of some ideas about that in case people are interested in having a place where they can actually go and look that up and kind of get a kind of an understanding of what, is being kind of discussed or talked about. So I'll make sure and throw that up on the video. But anyway, I shared that link with you so that you have it too.
Great.
But I had, every time that I think one thing about doing a lot of the type of work that I do, especially like in healing and nutrition, structural medicine, energy medicine, and how that's kind of like me, like, people would call it music, but that's what I do. I heal.
Sure.
I heal people, I heal animals, I heal environments. And so, after having the conversation last week, I actually had a couple of my friends that actually watched the video, which I was shocked. And yeah. Well, like sometimes I think people think either I'm just way too out there and over their head, or that they think that I'm actually dumb and they haven't actually, looked at any of the stuff that I've put out. So it's kind of an interesting combination. I don't take any of it personally.
Right.
But and so just, with conversations with other people about, that they hadn't really actually thought about, like when they write things down or they sign other people's contracts, and they didn't really have confidence in themselves. And when they stepped into it, they didn't really have an idea of what do I want. They just kind of went through somebody else's, hurting of them into, this is what you do. This is, and not really thinking about like, what do I want? And so it's actually, I've been working on a project for 18 years now. Hopefully this fall is where some of the funding will break loose. And you know,
Yeah,
I've worked
that's
on it a
interesting.
lot to buy land,
Hmm.
and I'm trying to figure out how to make so many things like work together that this last week, after having the conversation with you and conversations with other people and
Yeah.
getting out in nature and really looking, you know, because that's what I'm going to do is I'm buying land to build a 50-year, you know, biodynamic farm
Hmm.
and project. And also, I want to buy a lot of acreage because I also want to do full scale cultural land restoration of the land
Great.
that's around it
Great.
for nature, in behalf
Hmm.
of nature for nature. And also, I want to have a herbal medicinal plants that I can actually get seeds from so that I can seed save plants that are going extinct
Hmm.
into the future and be able to give those to people who want to be herbalists and learn about, you know, herbal medicines and keep some of these plants alive. So, and then I also will take combat veterans for 2-year programs on the land. So that's basically the people that will be coming onto the land are combat veterans, so that I can actually help them through their healing process, help them to touch the land and work with the land and get confident and heal themselves. And then after 2 years, they can go back to where they came from and they can implement this either in urban farming settings or community gardens, or maybe be able to get land that they can actually do some of the same things with. So trying to reskill them and tool them into the people who fix everything versus, you know, them being in a position where they basically tear apart everything, right? So
Yeah.
kind of the opposite. But so I've been working on, like, you know, if I bought land outside of a town, I'm pretty sure, you know, it helped me to actually pinpoint, actually, finally, this small area that I'm really looking at in the United States to be able to do this.
Yeah.
And it made me realize, like, I can buy, you know, say, for example, there's an old town, you know, one that's really old, like, you know,
Oh.
kind of like Wild Westy,
Sure.
and then maybe it has like 200 people in it, and I realized, like, I could buy the buildings that are falling apart historically, and I can
Yeah.
actually re-outfit them and modernize them,
Hmm.
keep the history, but also make them useful, and I can rehabilitate a small town, right, by buying these buildings, and then I can also help the town make a change to a more sovereign um, and sustainable,
Interesting.
rehabilitate a small town, right, into sustainable energy, to a lot of different things,
Well,
and
you would
then buy
provide
a
the
huge.
basis for allowing new the growing of the society because you take care of the things not occupied. So that's a beautiful idea. Go on.
Right. I'm not looking into growing the society or the town any larger, but I can utilize these buildings for like a co-op where we can sell our farming products,
Sure.
an apothecary where I can do my medicinal medicines, a clinic, an alternative, you know, clinic for people to
Hmm.
come to, a area where people can come and do yoga and stretching and things like that. And then also have root cellars underground because a lot of those buildings already have it. So then we have a place to store our
Hmm.
food when it
Sure.
comes off to the farm. But
Sure.
and before it was we're going to live on the farm. Now we're going to be occupying inside the town because it's only going to be like a, you know, like a little bit of a walk to the land,
Sure.
and then take care of it daily. So I
Great.
realized, like, I could impact a town with the funding
Hmm.
by, you know, buying buildings that nobody's in and rehabilitating those buildings for the use that I need for the
Hmm.
farming and all the
Hmm.
other stuff. And then I can also have a larger say in that community and also help to lead them, you know, in a legal,
Sure.
financial, different ways, and
Yeah.
actually create a better life for the people in those towns.
Great.
Um, because a lot of the younger people have left. So a lot of them are just, you know, the older people.
Hmm.
So then they would also have people to look after them and help them and care for them. Do you know what I mean? Like we would make it. So it was really interesting because it also, by, you know, talking on Sunday, it really helped me to
Wow, that's
kind
great.
of see like a bigger picture, you know, not like I'm going to buy a town that, you know, it's probably going to have a lot of abandoned buildings, maybe a few, was like a little one-horse town or whatever else, and then rehabilitate what I can.
Sure,
not
sure.
everything, and not buy the whole town, but just, to do the project that I'm doing. And I actually was really excited about this because I couldn't actually do a lot of legal work or anything else, if I went to a town that was bigger.
Oh, yeah.
Or if I was just on the land that was quite a ways from the town,
Sure.
I would buy one building in town to have a co-op and a clinic and all this other stuff, but I wouldn't be impacting. I wouldn't be impacting the area as much as I could.
Sure.
And so this would bring money. It was actually, make the town look nicer. People, that were coming through, they could have a place to, get something, maybe a snack or some herbal medicine or a co-op. And then also it can actually, even from people like 30 or 40 miles away who maybe are farming, could have a place to bring their goods too, that we could actually sell for them. So then we become like a medicine wheel where the spokes are coming out from the town, right? And it's going in all the different directions, like a, maybe even more like a, wagon wheel or something like that. But
sure.
So that's what I thought about a lot this week, being out in nature and how do and it means that I have to step out there just a little bit more than I was willing to do. I wanted to kind of more hide, get away from society and do a lot of this stuff and control things, in my reality and teach and educate just from the farm. But that's because I'm exhausted. I've been whistleblowing for 30 years. I'm just tired. I'm one of the old people who've been involved in this stuff for a long time, TV, radio, and I'm tired. I'm really, really, really tired. And so it sounded better for me to like kind of do more of I'm going to do this, but it's going to be more behind the scenes versus stepping out. So it's actually the conversation we had last week has kind of, I guess, helped me to, step out, I think, a little bit more and put my money where my mouth is, right? And if I really want change, how can I directly impact a community? And I'm not saying like I take over a town and then, your religion is my religion. It's not going to be anything like that. It's going to be like, more economic stuff coming in and, food and medicine and just a lot of other, really positive things. So right. I'm not going to go in and be a dictator of the town, but I will use, my percentage of holdings in the town to help people and teach them about being sovereign and how do we move the whole town away from that? How do we move, maybe re-register the town as a township? Wow. Or, there's another thing that I was thinking about is that, a guy named Dr. Richard Smith, who deals with animal stuff, he passed away a couple of years ago, but I did an interview with him in Oregon. And on a topic that he did research on called predatorial aversion therapy, where a really interesting guy with a lot of thinking, but he left his land legally as a living entity. So he had like this 20-acre parcel with a really old house on it that they remodeled and everything. And it also sat on like this river in Oregon. And his last wish before he died was that he turn his land into a living being that would have a physical person that would actually do the paperwork and everything else and be the spokesperson for the land. But the piece of land got returned back as a living entity. Wow. So, you could actually do this with a town, right? And so sure. What it does is it, helps people to make better choices because we're making decisions based on the town and the areas and our farms and whatever else are living organisms. So how different would it be when we come together for a town council meeting when we're speaking in behalf of the land and all the things on the land? I want to
comment on that later. I want to comment. Go on.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, thinking about that and, not taking responsibility also away from other people, which is a habit of mine. because I like to just try to get things done as fast as possible instead of allowing people kind of sometimes to go through their process that they need to go through in order to come to the same, conclusions like on their own. I mean, it's like dog training. You want the dog to make the decisions you want them to make without too much of an upper hand in controlling them, right? So not that people are dogs, but I have to use some of the things that I've learned in my life, in order to be better at dealing with community and pack mindsets and, these kinds of things. But so that's kind of like, I was pretty excited because it really kind of, it really pulled my project together in just a lot of really awesome ways.
Very good.
And more than ever, I'm just so unbelievably excited about it. And so that's kind of like where I'm at. So before I was kind of, I really wanted all the funding and money to come forward so I could see how much I had so I could figure out what I could do. But I could do this on, any scale right now, and maybe it could be like also a format for the New America where we go to the, we retool these really old little towns into beautiful little hubs for the people who live around it. And we can do them all over, refabricate these old towns and boarded up areas that are falling apart. And the other thing too is like I can reuse all of that stuff. I can reuse like, the building parts, and build on, what is missing or what we don't have. And that way also help restore some of the history of that area, good, bad, or indifferent. Because we want to tell the truth, right? So if there are bad things that happen there, we want to tell the truth about that too. But yeah, so and then bring in, sustainable power, because if the town is like not working and there's no real power going to it, then we can actually refabricate the buildings so that we can do wind, solar, hydro, water power, whatever power that's available, so that we're actually not on the system anymore. So we can create a whole new structure in the town where it's all sustainable power and energy, so that we don't need a power source that's closed. So, it could be fun because we could even put up electrical chargers for electrical cars, because a lot of people can't drive through the United States with an electrical car because there are areas where you can't charge up. So we could have like a really old stuff, and then we can have this really new stuff, which could be intertwined together.
Sure.
And so I think it could be really, really great. And in these old towns, there are people who, may have retired or whatever that are older, but these are skilled people. And it would be great to see if we could get them mixed back into the community and also helping to utilize their skills and tools to actually, make a difference and build something wonderful. So that they feel like they're doing something too, even if they're just contributing with stories and being there and dealing with the community. So, yeah, so that's kind of like what I would, some of the things that I would like to do. I know it kind of sounds big and epic, but my projects were actually bigger before this kind of tightening it up, so I'm tightening it up. So I became really excited. So that's what I have to say is that it just kind of helped me to kind of open a door. And it's like, if you're going to make, this voice kept saying to me, well, what kind of impact, are you wanting to make? And I was like, well, I want, because it goes back to what do you want, not what you don't want, or what you're going to put up with, or what you're going to compromise, or what you're going to obligate yourself to, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, I want to be able to make a legal impact. I want to be able to create a sovereign community, but not like a crazy, hippie commune. Like, I have some conservative systems. I'm a little bit more conservative.
Great.
Not a lot of naked people, we just don't, we want to actually have a thriving community where it's respectful and honorable for all people. But, and so all these different things, and I started really thinking about what I want. And then I was like, talking to the voice that talks to me. And so we're talking about that. It was leading me more to, what do you want? And
Yeah.
then that's what really helped me to like finalize some of the things, because I've been waiting for other people to tell me some things or to try to find information that would have been compatible, but that's not what I want. That would be taking pieces outside of me to conform exactly who am I and what do I want to do? What do I want to contribute? What am I building here? And it had to come from the inside. It wasn't going to come from the outside.
Sure.
And so, it was just nice to actually fine tune stuff that I'd been working on, stuff that I wasn't so confident in. I was looking for outside support or mirroring to tell me what to do. And then now I'm like, but you know what to do. Like you have a vast knowledge on all these different things. So why don't you do it? Why don't you make it happen instead of, anyway, so it was very exciting for me.
I will try to break in and say, because your intention last time was, you felt if people wanted something, a ready packet to sign their name on, so you wanted instead to call out the message, stop a little bit and make your own journey first home to yourself. So that's what you planned for last week, and now you even say, because you have a lot of experience and knowledge inside, and you presented it, and it was very concise. It was a very well delivered message you had last time. It made me to reflect a lot, and surely those who will be lucky enough to follow your story and watch it will have the chance to do it too. So that's a little comment. So actually you did yourself become a lot of inspired from it, and create a lot of the things. You even gave yourself energy to do some necessary work and continue your journey. That's kind of it. That's very nice to hear. I have some more comments. Maybe you want to break in and say something.
No, I'm good. I just wanted to tell people that I just kind of got a little bit more tightened up on my project, and I could see why energetically, like matter, like it hasn't really come down into matter yet, into physical solid matter. My project, like all the final pieces, like the money and getting the place and, setting up and starting, hadn't come together, was because I still had these ends that I was unsure about, that I didn't really know. I was waiting for information or something to come from the outside to figure it out. And then, after the conversation this week I had with you, and then a couple other people from the video we did on Sunday, this voice just kept saying, you can do this, you do it, you do it. And so I remember, like, my friends have kids, and they always, when they get around 2 years old, they're always like, start to get defiant, like, no. And then they're always like, no, me do it. And so I was laughing, because I was like, that's right, me do it. I can do this, right? I learned this when I was 2. So, I've got this handle, just got to be a little bit more defiant and just do what I think is right. And also, with the legal, framework, like not just copy pasting somebody else's idea of sovereignty or what you, and I really love Rudolf Steiner's work, because he did talk about that in this period we're in right now, the 5th post-Atlantean epoch, is that we're in the thinking period. This is about you and being an individual, and then how later on, as we develop this, then how does that relate to community? Because we're right now like in a herd. We're in herd mindset, where we find people to follow along instead of actually have an individual input. And I'm not saying it's wrong to have people out there like Anna von Reitz and all these other different people helping people and helping provide paperwork and all this other stuff. But I'm also saying, like, if you read the paperwork and there's some things that you, number one, don't understand, or a word that you don't understand, it's your due diligence to look that up. And then if that word doesn't work for you, to replace the word with something that is going to work for you. Because this is like, this is an expression of who you are energetically. So are you a free, immortal being, universal being, or are you a physical hunk of meat that's being fought over, right, and enslaved? So, you know, what are you? And then making sure that that's expressed into physical matter, right? So that all that legal stuff matters, because that, you know, all that stuff that you sign, it actually is creating your solid world. And if you haven't read that paperwork and you don't know what those words are, and you're not in, and then you start reading them and you go, wow, I don't know if I really agree to this because I don't really even understand it, then there's a problem, right? You can't be that thing which you're projecting. And then you're always going to have some kind of legal problems, and you're always going to have some kind of pushback from the outside world, because, you know, a lot of people say that things like law of attraction exist here, which means what you put out is what you get back. They could also call like the law of karma. But if you're putting out paperwork that you don't understand, you're going to get a lesson in it. And then you're going to have to defend it, and you may not even understand what you're defending. And you might not understand the language of that. So it's better to, like, you know, and I'm also doing this too because I'm reworking on some documents that I did before, and I've decided that I'm going to change the languaging in it to suit me a little bit more. And then so I'm reformatting some of my own legal documents. And I'm going to be doing that probably next week. And then because I don't, you know, back when I signed them and I put them into action, I didn't really understand a lot of, you know, now, who am I? I was doing it to try to protect myself and protect my stuff, you know, from foreign invaders. And that's not what I'm interested in anymore. Now I want to be able to use my documents to educate people about who they are. So when they read them, they go, wow, holy moly. I want some of that all over me, you know?
When you read from someone inspire you to do your own journey, this woman put in federal prison, the ex-top attorney. I have some comments about the word ship shape and scape and landscape. Most will have actually the English version of the word quite clear, like landscape photography, but landscape is actually the feudal legal term or lawful term in Scandinavia for a smaller part of a kingdom, or what would the former the small countries or the local political area in far way back, like pre-Christian times, had this natural connection, and in our language we would actually say landscape. So the scape, and scape is very close to shape or ship. And if anyone will just brush ever so slightly on the language of the legal is the anti-natural language, and the lawful is the pure true language. But if you brush on it, you will find the word ship so much, like, well, citizenship and whatever. Actually, in Swedish, we will not be citizen and have citizenship. We will be state co-pawns, or actually the surety for a bond. And so that's the language. Even if you really think about, most languages have incorporated something like, well, this ship, as you explained last time, because if we try to, you did it sometimes last week when you had your presentation, you were strong to go back to in law and talking about in law, and law is the focus of that brought you to want to create these 2 episodes. So the law, and I tried to brush on it last week, but these 3 words is kind of something I would like to expand a little bit, maybe 5-10 minutes talk on it. And
yeah,
also,
so I'll let you do that. But one thing, so let's talk about that. So when you go through a checkpoint, say in the United States, right? You go through a border.
Mm-hmm.
or you get pulled over by law enforcement. They
Sure.
want you to provide ID because they want to know what your citizenship is.
They,
Which
you,
Admiralty law, maritime law ship are you on? Are you aboard the U.S. corporation ship, a vessel that's floating because there is no land? It's floating on the water, marks, that are above the land in the United States. So which vessel are you? What vessel are you in? That's why a lot of people, you see these videos and they go to checkpoints and they refuse to offer that information to law enforcement because they refuse to actually legally put themselves onto a ship, right?
sure.
So they don't want to say, I'm U.S. citizen ship, my U.S. citizenship, because that puts you on the USS, USA ship that's not on land, which means you have no jurisdiction and you have no control over, right? So
A short break, because have identification. Actually, the Justinian Deception is a YouTube channel. I would recommend anyone to go there. And actually, in all traditions, the land, the language, and the customs is the binding unit, because you have something you share it, the language and the land, and together it creates the custom. That's the law. And to use the word, the grammar, the basis of a language is actually something that should have standing in a court. They use that, and they should have like the public official variation approved and accepted upon when they do. So the words actually used, identify, make yourself identic. Okay, you hold up a paper and I say, I'm identic to this. I'm the same as this. And that's the start of the little game they do. And also police will always have questions, because the one ask a question is always free, but the one who answer, like I said, little bit in a discussion to you, but if you stand on something, you can prove. He said he stand here. Now you have a fact, or something happened. Fact actually is a word that means something that happened in time. A fact is actually something happened. And the police want you to do an action, identify. That's a word, action, verb, the verb they use. So they want you to do the action to make yourself identical. I am this paper, I'm dead. Actually, on the paper, you will see non-approved official. The language on the document you provide is actually not provable to be standing grammatically correct as English. It's actually a trick they put on these papers. So
yeah, it's
now I want
it's all a trick with language. Go ahead.
No, that was my short break, because you were in this flow of continuing. I can do some other small breaks because there are lots of interesting things to go. I started in landscape, and you came
go
to
ahead
this
and
police checkpoint.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing too is, like, whenever you go over a border or you fly into a different country, another thing that they'll make you sign is a customs, right? Because you have to declare in customs.
That's so interesting.
Do you have something or do you not have something? And people don't really think about what the word, custom is, or what you're declaring in that custom.
It's a great one.
And what you're doing is you're signing a declaration saying, I will obey the customs of this Admiralty law ship country, right? So they're also saying that when you sign into customs to go across, that you will behave in the customary manner of whatever the legal framework of that country is, right?
And
so you don't realize what you're agreeing to, all these different things, and the way that they use these words, and they put them into your life and what they get you to sign and do, and you don't really even understand the ramifications of that, right? Until there's a problem, then you freak out.
You connect to something I said. Ancient law is language, land, and customs. So actually, you pay customs, as you said. You agree to be in their legal system, their customs. So actually, declaration is the word. They have self-incrimination is the word in Norwegian to leave your tax income form. To pay tax to the government. In Sweden, they call it declarations. All these other words they use in the legal world is actually very, very obvious and clear. I will show you my Swedish
but
passport
that's
if you
the
want.
law. That's Admiralty law that you would have to, right? It's the law of the sea, because if you were floating in with a whole bunch of, goods and services or whatever, and you ported on some land, right? You're a foreign entity coming into a dock. So this is why you have to make a declaration and pay tax, because this is how they get you legally to sign the custom documents. If you have something to declare, you don't have something to declare, but either way you have to sign here so that you deal with
Let me see
your
it. It's my passport. It's my passport. Let's see up here. I want to show from it later because it's, and actually what you say, admiralita, how you say it, admiralty law actually is connecting to ancient law, the principles, but they tweaked it away to make the benefit to someone else.
So anyway, that's why I like the world passport, in case people want to look into the world passport.
I have something very interesting to show in my passport later. Go on, and we'll
the world passport, anybody can apply for. You can look it up online. There are some countries that don't take it, but pretty much a lot of the countries that you would want to go to will take the world passport. And then that way you don't have to have a passport from your own home country, because and also the world passport gives you a choice of registering yourself as a corporation and a capitalized name in your passport, or an upper and lowercase person in your passport. And they also, so that's kind of like, the world passport's awesome. It's been around since like 1945, and it doesn't have all the bull crap that all the other passports have in it.
I would bet an easy guess that my Swedish passport here included in the European Union, and well, first all my private things, maybe I should not show it for anyone to just grab it, but here, moving on some pages, well, this is difficult to see in this line, but they have made the print of the paper like the image of different towns. Now I will have I can see I will have really difficult. Well, here it's maybe possible to see faint. It's like almost a watermark, but in the print of the paper, it's from different towns. The layout of different towns in Sweden. Now it's in the legal sense, a town is under the Roman law, under the Vatican. Now the last picture here, all these towns of Sweden, the 20 largest cities, urban areas. The last picture is kind of, I'll try to prepare it here. The last picture is quite astonishing. Actually, I'm lucky because it's a little bit clearer print. It's an island, and it's a little cozy, typical Swedish house, one house with a little estate, and it's in the sea, and it's the flag of Sweden. Everyone will say, that's so cute. No, actually, that is probably very, very carefully designed to display a secret in plain sight that, well, Sweden, this is Sweden.
Not only that, but if we look
Sweden.
at, right.
That's Sweden. That's Admiralty law.
Right. Maritime law, that's what they do. They set it up that way. But
yeah.
So the other thing too, like if we look at like some of the stuff that Ken Doss is saying,
yeah,
that picture in your passport is patented and trademarked.
Absolutely.
So what they're telling you is that Sweden is Admiralty maritime law without actually putting that in words, because they don't have to, because they have the patent on the design. And so what it does is
it's put in law. The kingdom means the company of Sweden is registered on New York's Securities Exchange. Of course, every country.
But they're legally telling you of that ownership by the picture.
Yes.
Because they patent and register that picture and the copyright trademark of that picture. So what they're telling you, without having to legally put a whole bunch of language on there in legal writing or language, they actually can put the picture on there. But then if you go look at the patent and trademark on that picture, then you get to see all the whole legal ramifications of that picture.
And so, I wrote the word ship, shape, and scape. Actually, those three words from ancient times, in my area, the rock art, the carvings, is the most one in our area is the ship, and it's a perfect symbol. And if I could shortly remind about my past friend,
Oh, you're freezing up.
or Tamtun.
Yeah, you're freezing up.
You're gone too. Sorry.
Well, I took
can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can skip the camera.
Yeah,
I'll skip the camera and
okay.
These words he writes very interesting on the symbolism of the ship is a perfect time capsule. You're traveling on the mental time space. The symbol of a ship is so strong. It's actually one of the how you describe a church will many times be midship, the side ship of a church, and that's the spiritual ritual ceremony room we use today. In ancient times in Scandinavia, we have erected stones in the form of ships. So this ship and shape and scape. Actually, a ship is a is a constructed shape, and your shape, as you were talking to us last time. Let me try if the camera comes back. It does. Maybe it does. And so in the legal term, we are still connected, right? I can't see you.
Yeah, I'm still connected.
Yeah,
I just shut down
that's great, because
for bandwidth.
In the law, the shape, as you said, actually you go into your energy and you shape the outside. So shape, ship, and scape or sculpture or well, Gestalt in German. All those words is very, very clever or intelligent or wise. They're wisdom. There's honor carried in them, and I'm sure I can have the chance to be invited back to make one more of some of my lessons. I could actually design very interesting talk about these subjects and actually the roots of ancient culture and law. I will jump off the train here for you to continue to talk whatever you want, because
I was just thinking maybe we should just tie up this conversation.
Yeah, great. So it's cool for me. The medicine wheel you mentioned last time, I picked it on my list for things. Order of the world, legal standing, and the standing. Actually, I would try to, before we leave, I will say you're in the area of healing, and one of the legal battles of Scandinavia, I mentioned last time, Scandinavia and Estonia was the last countries in Europe to fall for Christianity as lawful system, and we had the ancient word in our lands is not Christendom, and dom means dom in our house or the law you follow. We had heathendom, and heathendom actually means it's an established, very ancient wisdom law structure, and it was ours. And heathendom, some will say heathen, and actually the enemy of my people have taken that word and tried to turn it upside down to something ugly and bad. But heathen actually means, the ancient root in Germanic and Norse languages is heather, or honor. That's kind of, we brushed on it, and you were very elegant last time to mention the understanding, and we too often say your honor to the judge, but we should honor ourselves very much, like the word you say is something you should keep. That's the ancient, most taboo, worst crime you could do in my part of the world, and most part of the world, is to break your word, because actually the word is your sacred promise, and if you break it, you will lose your reputation, you will lose your standing. And I had some more words, but I'll leave it there, because as you say, it can be quite good time for you to tie up this little shorter presentation than last time.
And I just want to show something really quick, right? So I just want to do something really quick here. Let me see here. Okay. Oh, I don't know. Am I screen sharing? Oh, wait, I have to go over here. Okay, so I want to go. Can you see this?
We see.
Okay. So I just kind of want to throw this on there just really quick. So my last teacher, Babadoh, Shoshone medicine man, elder, who passed in June 2016, and I spent quite a bit of time with him discussing some observations that he had made in the work that he did. So for the last 16 years of his life, he traveled in his car. He would go to different areas and he would heal the energy field of it so that we could actually make something new, and it would create a meridian, an acupuncture needle that would actually help to resurrect the earth as well. So in these ceremonies, sometimes you do them by yourself, earth healing ceremonies, and then sometimes you can get other people to help you. You release a lot of the murder and violence and stuff that's happened in the water and the land so that you can actually have a foundation to start building something new, you know, and more positive to clear out the negative energy. So one of the things that he said, so if we go to the medicine wheel, right, you know, we can just say like it's just a simple circle. And then we all have our individual, you know, medicine wheels that we have. And he talked a lot about how the earth and all the ley lines and everything are destroyed because we're mining crystals, we're taking oil out. And the earth is like the same as our skin. And anytime you cut into it, you damage the ley lines. You break those ley lines from actually being able to work. And ley line is the same word that we would use in acupuncture for energy centers in the body and linking them back up through acupuncture points. So it would be meridians,
Victor
right?
Schauber would call the water the earth's blood, and the oil or the carbon would be the earth's bread or body.
Well, more so there's ley lines, right? There's energy points on the earth, just like there is in the human body.
Well, imagine all the rivers, like you will understand it's a ley line if water is the blood of the organism earth.
No, I mean, you know, a lot of people talk about, you know, the 33 degree around the planet and how all of the, you know, pyramids and all these sacred sites all along that. I mean, that produces a ley line. But every time we take something out of the earth, we cut into it, or we destroy the topsoil from the plants living on it. We damage the ability of the earth to work energetically the way that it was designed to work. So he talked about how, you know, when we go to these places and we release all of these really negative things that have happened, now we give that area a new acupuncture point. We give it a new meridian, a new point in the ley line, and we have to remap it. And what he said was that it would look like, once we get it done, Earth would look like a flower of life pattern, like this one here.
Okay.
And so these would be all the meridians that are now connected, right? All over.
I see a gray screen blocking your picture on my side. I don't know if everyone else see it. Yeah, take that. Good. Now it's gone.
So these would be all the corrected meridians and points that we would make. So what he did was, as we were doing ceremonies, he had his number one spot was in the Grand Tetons, where he started creating new meridian on the earth, new ley lines, new acupuncture spots by doing this. And then he would do the energetic work as we were going out and doing a lot of these healings in these areas, releasing the stuff. He would then pick that meridian back up and reconnect it. And he saw it all as this flower of life pattern. So one of the things that we could talk about is how all of our meridians would actually, you know, once we got our medicine wheels together, right, it's really hard to see the circles overlaying each other and the different medicine wheels overlaying. I mean, that's how we're living. And so all of these meridians start to connect us all. So I want to show like one more picture here. I think I've got it in my, things. I've got it in my cosmic, I think, thing.
Big gray screen on the...
Yeah, hold on a second.
I wish you good luck.
Yeah, I was trying to find my...
Well, if you find something, I will go in. Actually, the medicine wheel, I could clearly, from listening to last week's show, you have the energy side of the medicine wheel so strong connection to it, but there is actually a physical or universe connection of anything medicine wheel is so similar. And
can you see it? Can you see this?
Even proven that the shortest day sunrise, the shortest day
Can you see this
sunset.
picture?
No, we see nothing. The longest day sunrise, longest day sunset, the Meton cycle of the moon with the different 19-year cycles, all those things are also connected to the physical stones put in a medicine wheel. So that's actually something to have respect. Almost like when I play instrument, I will say I'm not only energy, I'm not only matter, I'm both. Because when I play music, without playing, I would not create this. But when I play, I'm like, I cannot say I exist in the hand or in the instrument or in my brain or in the universe around me.
Okay, so can you see the picture now?
Now we can see. Small.
Okay, so if our medicine wheels are like circles, look at all. So this is kind of a more advanced flower of life pattern, right? How all the different things are intersecting. Well, each one of us has our own medicine wheel, whether we're utilizing or not, whether it's crushed up or not, whether it's slid over and everything's slid off of it or it's damaged.
Sure.
But you see how it all overlays. So together, you know, this is how our medicine wheels would interact. They would overlay each other. And so there would be no gaps between us or the energy field. This is why it's important for you to know who you are and manage your medicine wheel and also keep it balanced, because this is how it stacks up, basically. This is how the energy stacks up in the unseen, and how my teacher would say that it would be, you know, on the earth, right? How we have to reconnect all these different things. And so, you know, just thinking about this.
That would be a very physical aspect, because I could actually ask you, do you feel we could do everything without matter? We have to exist to have this experience.
Well, I have done everything in matter. I worked with this group for 5 years where we actually we came together by telephone, and we all worked astrally together, and we actually created new systems that we were hoping that would come into the physical system on Earth. So we actually created businesses. We actually created a lot of different things in the energetic field that I'm actually starting to see take hold now. I'm actually starting to see the change of all that work we did.
My point I try to come to, if you study the material precision of craft or intelligence to operate with the physical, there's a natural connection with the esoteric sort of being. I'm a being. I can feel myself. I have what we express as matter or something. What matters is also physical and the energy side. Without working in the matter area and aligning with the order of universe around me, that's the medicine wheel will actually pinpoint the seasons, the yearly cycles in the stones is marked up there, and without doing that, it's like, well, I couldn't just do it from energy. I couldn't just create. Well, there's like a double side of matter and energy. So I would.
Right. I mean, you know, it's probably a difficult thing, but the big thing to remember is that you're a human being, not a human doing.
Well, that's good, because we should.
So matter.
We should engage. We should have action. We should not watch an act. We should not be the audience. But that's actually in law. We are the public. We are the audience. Public is a Latin word for audience. So the public is the ones outside the action, watching the theater on the scene, the stage. And the stage actually will have a stage writer creating the performance, and there will be someone behind, maybe the Vatican or the hidden hand behind the Vatican even, or wherever, putting the resources, the money, the cost of this production will come from somewhere else. So the decision, the order, and the creation and the action here, that's an act. And we are passive as audience or public. The Latin wording, French word is public. That's audience. So that's kind of you say we should be action. We should be the writer of our life, our existence. So that I would agree fully with, and I'll try to prepare some points more careful for another time.
All right. Well, anyway, thanks for coming back on, and
really
I'll get
nice.
this up and posted, and
it was really nice to be.
It was another great conversation, and as people kind of dive in, hopefully this will help them, to sort their own stuff out and to be able to move forward. All right. Thanks, everybody, and